And then after a steamy affair with John, Kate Major left her job and John left her. Kate Major is with us today. Good morning, Kate.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. I want you to take us back to a month ago when you go to Pennsylvania to interview John. How does that line get crossed? How do you go from a reporter who's there to interview him to his mistress?
I had been reporting for a couple of years, so this wasn't my first assignment or first celebrity that I had worked on. I went there with the intention of coming back with a story, and unfortunately, I fell for John and came back with John.
How did that happen?
I met him when I was there in Pennsylvania reporting. You know, we went to dinner. He invited me to dinner, and then one thing just kind of led to another.
Did you feel a deep connection with him, or was this a fling? That might be hard to admit, but if you're honest about it, which of the two is true?
You know, I didn't look at it as a fling. I wouldn't have gotten involved with him if I knew the outcome of the situation, ever. But I did, and John had promised me and told me a lot of things, or else I wouldn't have put myself in this situation.
So you're at that dinner. You feel instant chemistry, connection. Do you think he felt a deep connection with you as well?
Initially, you know, there was no flirtatious activity going on until, you know, later on when we went to a house party, he reached out for my hand, and then we ended up kissing later on in the car. But I never planned any of it. I mean, I was looking at it as going to dinner, as that's, you know, when you're covering a story, going to dinner with the celebrity is about as close to the story that you can get. So that was my first intention. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I mean, he told me a lot of things that he isn't saying publicly that he said. And it's very hurtful because now I have to deal with the repercussions of it alone.
Yeah. So you have a 12-day affair during which he makes you say a lot of promises, like what?
You know, before I had resigned from my job, I talked to John about this. He told me that it was impossible for us to be together and for me to be a reporter. I also knew that it wasn't fair to Star Magazine. And, you know, I was supposed to work for him as his personal assistant, as well as, you know, be with him and also work on other lines that he had coming up.
So you thought all this was going to happen. You resigned from Star Magazine expecting it to turn out that way, and then what happens? Does he dump you?
No, I mean, even after he said that he publicly couldn't be with anyone, after he told me that he broke up with Haley, I figured, you know, it was for the show, it was for his family, it was for the kids. I didn't think that it would turn out with him going back to Haley.
He's back with Haley. We're talking about 22-year-old Haley Glassman, who has had a few words of her own about you. Let's take a listen. I'd like to hear your reaction.
I know what John tells me, and I know him. You know, she's coo-coo, coo-coo.
That's gotta hurt.
You know, I feel badly for her that she doesn't know the truth and that John hasn't told her the truth. If he told her the truth and, you know, what he told me and other people, then you know, any guy that cheats says that the other woman is cuckoo or crazy. So obviously she doesn't know the truth. So I have nothing bad to say about her. This isn't about Haley and I. This is about John and I.
Are you still in love with him?
No.
What do you think of him now?
You know, I don't have a lot of respect for him. I think he handled the situation very poorly. He did not act like an adult or a grown man or a father. And, you know, it's sad. I think the fame has just gone to his head, and he's on some, you know, bachelor romp or whatever you want to call it. But you cannot treat people. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to Haley. It's not fair to his ex-wife, his kids, or anyone else involved in the situation.
Lastly, I want to ask you if you still have journalistic aspirations and whether you think that could still be a career for you.
Of course. I loved my job. I worked really hard at it when I was in Los Angeles and again in New York. I have a degree. I'm not some stupid girl. This wasn't my first assignment. Yes, I crossed the line, and I should have known better. But now I just have to admit what happened, and, you know, I've been truthful all along, and John has not, and move on with my life. Everything, I believe, happens for a reason, and, you know, the worst thing that you can do is sit there and lie.
All right. Kate Major, thanks for coming in and telling your story.
Thanks so much for having me.